So in this video, I'm going to take two of my Festool 5.2 amp hour batteries, and I'm going to use them with my Capex 60 miter saw. And the goal today is to take my woodpecker tools that I have laying on one of my tables and put them up on the wall like I have a couple of my other woodpecker tools. Now I'm going to use my CT-Sys 1 dust extractor. I bought this specifically to use with the Capex 60. You pair it just by powering up the sustainer dust extractor, and then you're going to go ahead and hit the Bluetooth button and then pull the trigger on your saw, which pairs the two devices. Now here I have a piece of old French cleat, which I'm going to cut to size, and this is a very simple operation. I'm just taking the holders that came with my woodpecker's tools and I'm laying it down on the French cleat, marking it off with the Pica pencil, and then once I get it marked off, I'm cutting all these pieces to length. I'm going to use the holes that are already bored in the holders to drill it into the French cleat. And I'm not saying this is the long-term solution for these tools, but for right now, I just got tired of them laying on the countertop, and I feel like it'll be a lot easier to utilize the tools if I can just look up at the wall, identify the tool that I need, and grab it, use it, and it has a place to go or to return to, so that I don't continue to lose my surface areas in the shop, which are limited, to having tools laying all about. Now, I've purchased these woodpeckers tools a while ago, and I had just been meaning to get around to, positioning them on the wall or putting them up in some way that makes them both accessible and visually available, so I know, I could get ideas about which tool I want to use just at a glance. I plan on going ahead and making some wall holders as well for my TSO parallel guides and any other types of measuring and marking devices that I have in the shop. Those may be videos that I do in the future. In this clip, you can get a closer look at the types of brackets that I'll be working with, and you can see the Woodpeckers 12-inch T-square. That's one of the tools that I'll be hanging up on the wall. I have a large collection of nails and screws, but for some reason I never have the shortest screws that I would need for a project like this, so I always end up pulling out my grinder and cutting off the edge of the screw, nail, or bolt, simply because I don't want to make a trip to the hardware store just to pick up these smaller screws. In my perfect dream shop, all of my tools will be ready to go when I pick up the tool, but this is not a perfect shop, so I'm always shifting and moving things back and forth to do the things that I want to do. So in this clip here, you see I could use the CT-Sys 1 to do this sanding job, but I'd rather leave it hooked to the Capex so that the Capex is always ready to go just in case I need to go back and make cuts. So I'm using the CT MIDI 18 volt with the RTS-C sander just to kind of sand a little bit on the edge of the French cleat so it's not quite as sharp. Since I decided to use the CT MIDI, I needed to find another 5.2 amp hour battery, which means I need to take one of the batteries off of my drill and put a 4.0 battery on there that's charged so that I can take two 5.2 amp hour batteries and put it in the CT MIDI in order to do the little sanding job. I have a lot of tools crammed into my garage shop, and my shop is multifaceted in the sense that I keep lawn equipment, automotive equipment, and woodworking equipment all in the same space. And sometimes that can get cumbersome. And when I try to set up to do a project, I'll move all the tools that I think I'm not going to need over to one side of the shop so that I can do whatever I need to do. Anything from making a video to actually building something. And oftentimes I find that with me not having storage like I'm creating here where I can hang my tools up on the wall, something like a square or a tape measure or anything like that will end up being buried on the other side of the shop, and I'll spend all day setting up to do a project only to find out that the tool that I need is not available and I have to shift everything back and forth in order to get things done. So I'm trying to cut down on that by coming up with these solutions to hang things on the wall with the French Cleats system. And hopefully that helps going forward. I don't know if it's going to work out, but at least I'm going to try. I'm thinking about building like a faux wall or some kind of blockage for the garage door behind me there so that I can control the temperature a little bit better by adding insulation, but then also maybe extend the French Cleats over on that side so that I can hang some of these lighter tools over there. And then if I do that, then if I need to hang like heavier tools or something like that on the wall, I can put them on that main wall and use all these woodpecker tools on more of like a faux wall right there by the garage door. And at least with the camera angles that I'm using in this video, it'll still show up in the video as far as that. Now, if I do decide to do that, the wall will probably be mobile, meaning I'll put like some caster wheels on the bottom, so that's going to add a degree of depth so it doesn't tip over. But I think it'll serve a couple purposes. I can use my Planex in that video when I build the wall, because I can actually put drywall up on the wall, just kind of make a faux wall 16 on center with caster wheel base, and then I can do some mud tape and then pull out the DeWalt drywall sander and the Planex and kind of compare both one against the other. And then after I kind of get through fooling around with that, which would be a video, I could come back and put French Cleats on the wall as well, or I could go get some metal pegboard or even a plastic heavy duty pegboard to put up on that wall to put these tools over there, so I could kind of decide on whether it would be better to use French Cleats to house these tools or if it would be better to do pegboard. Not sure which one would be best, but I know at least with this French Cleat idea, I can just move the tools wherever I want to move them, because like even in this video when I get finished, I'm going to have the tools all set up, but this may not be the final resting place for where all the tools are going to go, especially when I move on to making a holder for my TSO parallel guides. The TSO, the 18-inch square that I have, I'm gonna make one for my bench dog square. I don't know if I could go back to bench dogs, and I know they have a holder that they sell. I can do that, or now that I actually have my welder, I might be able to weld up something, or possibly just make something out of wood to make, to basically position those tools up on the wall. I'll probably start with something wood because it's going to be the cheapest path forward. But like I said, right now, all of these tools that I'm hanging up on the wall are just like laying down on different flat surfaces. I need to clear these surfaces because it makes it kind of hard to do projects. Even right now in this video, my huge MFT table it's actually to my left, is covered with all kinds of different tools and stuff that I need to organize and put away. And overall, I have to come up with solutions or creative ways to store all my other tools, because if I do plan on getting rid of my 4-foot by 8-foot MFT table, that means I'm also getting rid of the storage that's underneath. So I have to have an alternative solution to be able to manage all those tools. And then I also need to figure out how I'm going to manage all of my bolt screws and nails. I have several tubs on the kind of faux workbench that I put on the opposite side of the shop that kind of runs. It's not the full length of the garage, but basically like we have a refrigerator in the garage, and then it kind of goes from the refrigerator all the way to the other garage door. And I made it intentionally higher than all the rest of the work surfaces in my shop because I wanted to house certain tools underneath it. That being like my large compressor, the wood chipper. At that, back before I was actually putting my lawnmower under there. But I think I'm going to change that all around. I'm going to probably drop that shelf down to be the same height. And if I don't do that, then I'm going to probably take that shelf out and build like a full cart with caster wheels and, store stuff, going, obviously from the floor all the way up to the ceiling, but also putting it on a mobile cart so I can move it around the shop. I just have a whole lot of different things that I need to figure out as far as how I'm going to make my shop flow for the types of things that I want to do. And because I have such a wide interest, it makes it very difficult to do that, because if I'm building a bigger project, obviously I need more space. And if I'm building something smaller, then obviously I don't need as much space. But some of the tools that I have, take up quite a bit of room. The one thing I like about the Festool system is the fact that at least storing them away, they can all go in the sustainers. But then, even with my Capex stands that I have, behind me in the video, both of them can kind of collapse down and get, be smaller footprints in the shop, basically. And so that's kind of like the theme of what I want to do. I have in my mind I want to make I have this idea that I want to do to store my sustainers. I'm still in the planning stage, but I'm going to make some videos about, what it is that I want to do. I think I want to build a prototype first and then kind of get the prototype to be functional before I actually show like how I built it. So right now I'm still in the design stage of that. And in the background, I've been going back and forth in regards to signing back up for SketchUp. As I mentioned before, I think it went from like $300 a year to like $350 or something like that, which is quite a bit of money. Now, fortunately, we're still in a position financially to where my wife and I still are able to get our allowances, so I could afford it. However, I think I paid for SketchUp for maybe like a couple years, 1 or 2 years at least, and I didn't use it at all. And so it made me a little bit apprehensive about continuing to pay for it. If I'm going to pay for it, I want to use it. Now, if I was, more efficient or better at SketchUp, then I would simply just do videos of designing things in SketchUp. However, my skill set is not at that level, so I don't really feel like I'm going to get a lot of viewership if I start doing SketchUp videos when I don't hardly know how to use SketchUp, or at least I'm not fluent in it. And so when I'm trying to balance my time between trying to design something versus actively doing something in a shop like what I'm doing here, at least, even though this is not a sophisticated design, it's nothing special, it doesn't require the types of tools that I purchased. The reality of the matter is, this is a video that I can make, versus if I just make squares in SketchUp, that's not really going to give me much of an audience, to be quite frank. A bit off topic, I recorded this footage of this video weeks ago, probably about a couple weeks ago, and it's crazy because I bought the Conturo a little bit ago, which was kind of like probably the most expensive tool that I wanted to buy that I had on my list. And it's funny because I have such a large collection of tools, and yet the combination of not having the time that I thought I would have to work on projects, and then also filling my shop up with all kinds of different tools, and not having, or rather having to move things around all the time, which takes time to kind of get down to projects, has really taken away a lot of my motivation, even with the video making, to be quite honest. That's what's taken me so long. Like, I recorded this video. Initially, all of the footage, when I cut out a lot of the dead space, the video was probably about 40 minutes long. And I was going to do a voiceover, and I sat down in my computer. I have it on my main computer. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to say, I felt like I didn't have anything to say. Even though I could just describe what was going on the screen, it just seemed arduous to think about doing a voiceover over a 40-minute video of me making very simple French cleat holders for some Woodpeckers tools. And so what I ended up doing was parsing through the video, cutting it up, taking out a lot of dead footage, and then I sped it up to probably about double speed, which brought it down to about 20 minutes. And then I exported that video and took that footage, put it on an SD card, and moved it over to my M1 Mac. And I was hoping that whether it be early in the morning or maybe late at night, that I would, find some kind of motivation or inertia that would help me to come back and, do a voiceover for this video to put it out. Because, there have been things that I've completed since this video, but the way that I like to tell my story on this channel is I like things to kind of go in a particular type of order. And so for me, this is just one of my own quirks. Content has been king on my channel. What I mean by that, I've made almost 600 videos, and it's the sheer number of videos that help me to get monetized, that help me to get the amount of subscribers that I have, and not necessarily the quality of the videos. And so for people to be able to track my journey, it's important for me, for you to see, step A, step B, step C going on down the line. And I'm very specific about that, even in regards to, like, I want my tool release videos to come out in a specific order. Oftentimes exactly when I purchase them. If I purchase a tool, don't unbox it, then I purchase a second tool, I mandate myself to unbox that first tool first and then get around to the second tool. I think the only exception is with the Conturo and the Planex. I purchased the Conturo, held on to it for a month. I was saving my money to buy the Planex. I bought the Planex. I unboxed the Planex and then unboxed the Conturo after that, only because I didn't want to wait another month to do that unboxing. And so I'm pretty regimented about the way that I want to do things, but sometimes that could be overwhelming and it gets in the way of my creativity and then my vision, because even though behind the scenes I see growth, it's very difficult for me to display that on camera. I hope that over time that I become a little bit more creative and a little bit more successful in regards to being able to communicate the flow of what's going on with me in regards to my overall growth, both as a DIYer and as a woodworker. But I think it's very difficult to communicate at this stage, because it's kind of like, going outside and measuring a blade of grass by the millimeter. You're not seeing any real value yet, because I'm working on multiple things behind the scenes at the same time. But hopefully in the future things will kind of start to come together. I'm hoping that happens before the wheels fall off. But anyways, guys, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this particular video. I hope you found it somewhat entertaining, and I look forward to seeing you in my next one. All right, guys, thanks for taking time to watch this video, and here's the end result of what I did. And I will see you in my next one.